In Module 5, we talked about some of the big picture foundational philosophies used by fintech innovators to support and justify their work. For example, we talked about whether fintech should aim to create a decentralized, more democratized finance industry, or whether fintech innovations would further entrench traditional sources of financial power.
In that module, we focused on control and power, particularly who controls banking, currency, and our identity, with a specific focus on how to ensure fintech innovations provide greater financial inclusion. We ended the module by considering the speed of these innovations, particularly in the developing world, noting that in some less developed countries, fintech has already advanced considerably beyond what is available in developed countries.
So now we want to move on to our last module and consider some of these innovations in real-life context. But to do that, first we want to start with a question. Can technology be good or bad, or is technology always neutral?
Let's look at this using a specific example. Take a moment and think about one specific form of technological advancement, say nuclear power. What are your immediate feelings about nuclear power? Is it good, bad, or just neutral?
Now, on the one hand, nuclear power is among the cleanest, most efficient sources of energy ever discovered and utilized by mankind. Using material only about the size of a small cube, like let's say a Rubik's Cube, you could generate enough electricity to power an entire city for decades, if not centuries. Now, France derives about 75% of its electricity from nuclear power. As a result, France has cleaner and cheaper electricity than just about any country in the world. And in fact, France even exports enough excess electricity to generate over 3 billion euros per year.
And yet, in countries around the world, nuclear power is one of the least popular forms of electricity generation. When I asked the question, some of you may have immediately thought of disasters like those that occurred in 2011 in Fukushima, Japan, or even in 1986 in Chernobyl, Ukraine.
Or maybe you didn't even think about nuclear power in terms of electricity generation at all. Maybe you immediately thought about its even more destructive use, nuclear weapons.
There's no denying the potential of nuclear power for both good and bad. But the questions remain. Is nuclear power itself good or bad? Can technology ever be inherently good or evil? Or is the technology always inherently neutral?
Now, one common debate that has occurred in countries like the United States around the question concerns guns. Typically, the question is asked in this way: do guns kill people, or do people kill people? And why this may seem like a silly debate to many of you, the underlying philosophical question has been at the heart of technological advancements for millennia.
As an example of how long humans have been asking this question, let's consider a term that you may have heard before: Luddite. Have you heard that word before? I remember the first time I called someone a Luddite, it was David Bishop. And the term basically means someone who is resistant to adopting new technology.
Now, the term Luddite is thrown around a lot in tech circles, but do you know the origins of the word? The Luddites were actually a secret oath-based society from the 19th century England. They were worried that their jobs were going to be taken by machines, particularly in the textile industry, and some believed that the Luddites went around breaking machines to ensure that they wouldn't take over their jobs. Now, for many Luddites, the machines themselves were the enemies. And damage to machines was so prevalent that in 1812, the British government even created a new law that made machine breaking a capital crime.
Okay, so let's bring this back to the fintech world. We have discussed the challenges and benefits from several fintech innovations, such as blockchain and facial recognition software. We have also discussed multiple cases where blockchain-based technologies have been used for illegal behavior. But does that mean blockchain itself is bad, and therefore it should be illegal? Or were the people who utilize the technology for illegal purposes the real perpetrators?
Or concerning AI, should we be more concerned about the underlying technology that makes AI possible, or should we be focusing our attention on those who have the ability to control the use of that technology? Now, on that particular question, even Stephen Hawking, who has famously warned about the dangers of AI, noted that in the short-term concerns about AI depend more on who controls the technology rather than the AI technology itself. Okay, so here's a question for you. Now, to the extent that we have concerns about fintech innovations, should we be more concerned about the technology itself or those who control the use of that technology? And to the extent that you have concerns about AI, are you more concerned about sentient AI itself or the people and companies that are going to control that technology?
Whether you believe that technology can be inherently good or bad, or whether it is inherently amoral or neutral, there's no denying that technology has initiated massive social change over the past 2 centuries. The theory of technological determinism considers how technology has impacted human action, culture, and thought, and argues that technological advancements have been the primary source of social change.
Okay, one element of technological determinism is an ideology called technological utopianism, which is the belief that science and technology will bring about a utopia where scarcity, suffering, and even death can be overcome.
As we stated in the very first module of this course, we currently stand at the precipice of change, and we, as humanity, have some really important decisions to make. Will we utilize the power inherent in many fintech innovations to build the type of utopian society that science fiction has imagined for us? Or will we use these innovations to divide, control, and disempower further?
Although this course may seem somewhat pessimistic or cynical at times, the reality is that David Lee and I are actually extremely optimistic about the future, and we truly believe in the power of fintech to bring humanity closer together.
So for the remainder of this module, we're going to consider some of the ways people are creating fintech solutions and building fintech-based business models solely for the benefit of society. Do you believe that technology can usher in a utopian society? Should businesses have a social responsibility and generate some good for society? Or should businesses only be responsible for generating profits for shareholders or maximizing shareholder value, which is what's commonly referred to? Should fintech entrepreneurs consider the social implications that will come from the use of their technologies? And ultimately, whose responsibility is it to ensure that technology is being used for the best interests of society? And is that something we should even consider?